Hey everyone, welcome to Raised Traditional. I'm your host, Madison Childers, and I'm so excited that you're here with me today. This podcast is all about embracing and celebrating traditional lifestyles for women, especially in the great outdoors. So grab a cup of coffee, find a cozy spot, and join me on this journey as we explore the beauty and adventure of traditional lifestyle. I can't wait to share these stories with you. Let's get started. Here in North Idaho, well, all of Idaho, we are able to bait our bear. And this is actually only allowed in 9 other states. So we have a very unique opportunity to honestly get to know these creatures better than a lot of other hunters will ever get to experience. And we'll dive into that a little bit later in the podcast. But first of all, I think I'm going to just start by sharing a little bit about my history on bear hunting. So I have been bear hunting for a little over 5 years now, and I've only hunted bear by bait. Other than that, it's been I would say, accidental encounters with them. And that's typically come the fall time because we have these incredible berries here in North Idaho called huckleberries. And if you're not familiar with them, they're kind of similar to a blueberry. They're very, very purple and they're super sweet and they're native in a lot of places in North Idaho. A lot of places where we elk hunt. And so we've seen our fair share of bear. We joke about calling elk camp bear camp some years because, well, they're all over. But what we like to do is in the springtime, we set out it's a metal barrel. And what we do is we stock it almost weekly with a bunch of different food, typically a sweet food that will attract in the bear. We call them our land sharks, the candy, the sweets, it's the blood to the sharks. But what's really, really neat about this is I actually 2 years ago started doing this more involved with my son. There's something that is just so rewarding. I'm not even in it for the hunt of the bears. I'm in it for the baiting. I'm in it for the experience I share with my son and how excited he gets to go up and check his trail cam and see what bears he has on his site, on the bait site. I mean, he can't hunt them. He's just so excited to have them come in. And we'll talk a little bit more about what role that helps play on our part as hunters. But we have this incredible experience together, and we might not see a stinking thing, but we have so much fun prepping everything and going up. We use a brand called Boar Masters. It's a bait scent brand, and they're actually here in Idaho, and so it's pretty neat to work with a local company. But they create a whole bunch of different scents that you can apply to your bait site. So we have a concentrate that we put in oil and we dump all over, and we'll stomp our boots in it and we'll walk all over the site to help kind of draw that scent out. We have a paste that we put all over the trees. Bradley calls it painting the trees. He has so much fun doing that. We add this really, really sweet smelling powder to fresh popped popcorn, mainly because popcorn is super light. It's very small, so it takes a lot of time for the bears to eat it and to be on the bait. And then it's also cheap. And it can be pretty expensive to stock a bait site. And in Idaho, we can have up to 3 baits per tag holder or permit holder. And so we run one. We have a blast setting it up. It's a mile straight up this tall hill. And we follow all of the regulations as to how far it has to be and not near, different landmarks and things like that. But my son, who's 5 years old, is so excited to walk straight up a hill in the summer. It just cracks me up. He's so into it. Okay, I've told you a little bit about that. Now, let's dive into why I'm bringing this up. So, something here that's very unique to Idaho is we are one of 4 states that is home to grizzly bears. That being said, we are one of 2 states out of all the states out of the lower 48. Alaska is an anomaly in this. But in the lower 48 states, we are one of 2 states. Us and Wyoming are the only 2 that allow for baiting in the state that has a grizzly population. The other two include Montana and Wyoming. Or, I'm sorry, Washington. Washington and Montana do not allow baiting, and they are also home to grizzly bears. And so with that, comes this incredible privilege to be able to bait our bear and to study these creatures so in depth comes great responsibility. And over the past few years, there have been more and more encounters with grizzly bears and more encounters on bait sites. And legally, you are to report if you locate a grizzly bear on your site to the Fish and Game. And with that coming up, and Idaho doing an incredible job at trying to preserve this privilege that we have to bait bear, as of January 1st, 2025, they have required now a bear identification test. So you have to get the certification, essentially, that you can identify the differences between black bear and grizzly bear. And I will say, being somebody who has studied a lot on bear and really enjoy hunting them, and thought I was absolutely confident I could identify them. The Idaho's test, it goes into a little bit of a description on characteristics to look for and how to tell them apart. And then it's a 15-question test showing you photos of either a black bear or a grizzly bear. And you have to say yes or no to the question, is it a grizzly bear? And I will tell you, it was a humbling experience. There were two photos that I really struggled with because depending on the angle that you're viewing them, our black bear go through some of the most incredible color phases in the springtime. And I've honestly probably seen more cinnamon bears than I have black bears because of the time of the year that we hunt them. And for whatever reason, this area is very, very prominent. We have not been fortunate enough to see a blonde bear, but someday it's on my bucket list. But it's the fact that we have these brown bear, I should say. We have black bear with a brown color coat that look a lot like a grizzly bear. So it's not as easy as just the color and the size. It goes into the 5 main characteristics, and maybe I'm going to update you on some things. First of all, yes, grizzly bears are known for their prominent shoulder hump, but I will tell you, although black bear do not have that, depending on the angle that you're viewing the bear, you might not be able to see the hump or not. Something kind of cool I didn't know, but the hump in the grizzly bear is actually a result of the muscles that they use for digging. And that leads me into characteristic number 2, claws. The claws on a grizzly bear are much longer and curved, and those claws allow them to dig. Whereas a black bear, theirs are much shorter, and they are more suited for climbing trees, which is kind of a cool little tidbit. Ear shape and size. So grizzly bears, although they are typically these very large bears, and they have these large heads, they have these tiny little ears. They're these short, really cute, rounded ears on their massive heads, whereas black bear have longer, kind of more pointed ears that stand upright. Now, the facial profile of grizzlies, they have a distinct kind of concaved facial profile, whereas black bears, they're more of a dog-like appearance, a much more straighter face. And then, of course, the size. Now, overall, typically, a grizzly bear, they're generally larger and heavier than black bears, but you have to remember we have all different ages out there. So you could have a very young grizzly bear that might resemble more of a size to your typical black bear that you see. So it's really important to know more than just one characteristic to be able to confidently identify these bears. And that doesn't come from just a hunting standpoint either. It comes from a safety standpoint and how you're going to react if you are to see one of these bears in the wild. Typically black bear, other than, some very large boar, typically black bear are pretty skittish, I should say, big boar, or a sow with cubs. That's a mother bear. And the word mama bear, if you've never witnessed a sow with her cubs, you'll understand the terminology of the mama bear. They will destroy anything that threatens the sow and cubs. So I have more fear of running into a sow with cubs than I do a large boar, or luckily in Idaho, a grizzly bear. Now, all of them are dangerous. And so again, tracking and being able, that's one thing too, with their claws, their feet. Being able to, you'll see a much wider gap between the claws and the palm of the foot. And grizzly bears have a flat, like edge of their foot, where black bears don't. They're more like, if you think of a human foot, if they kind of curve. And so as you're tracking and you see them, you might know, oh no, there's a grizzly in the area. I need to really have my head up high. But where that leads us is Idaho. We have, as I mentioned, two distinct bear hunting seasons. We have a spring season and a fall season, and they're very long seasons, which is great. We also have the opportunity to harvest 2 bear in a year, and we allow for baiting. And per permit permit holder, you're allowed 3 bait sites. So you'll get 3 tags for them. For me, being a traditional bow hunter, I love hunting bait site, because what it does is it allows me to draw this creature in, this incredible creature, into a location. Now I can set my tree stand 15 yards from. So I have a very ethical shot to take. And hopefully I'll have time to take an ethical shot if I get the opportunity. The other thing, though, that is so neat about baiting is well, you have to really study your bears coming in. We'll go up and we'll pull the cam, or if it's a cellular, we'll check it. And we start to develop, and we kind of watch these patterns of these different bear. And we might, there's, some really old ones on there. Or we have some really young, small ones that we're not going to harvest, because again, we don't do it just to kill. We do it because we love bear meat. Granted, it's an important part of maintaining a healthy ecosystem, for sure, predator control, and that's us doing our part. And you don't have to harvest a bear in Idaho. You don't actually have to take the meat. Same goes for cougar and wolf. Those are the animals that you do not have to harvest. Other big game, you are expected to harvest everything that you can out of the animal. But for me, I love eating bear, as long as it's a non-wormy bear. And I will absolutely harvest it. And so that brings me to the point, though, that when I don't harvest, I have such an incredible opportunity to really study these creatures. I have had the privilege of watching one bear particularly. I've counted up probably over 40 bear in the last 5 years that I've had the privilege of kind of watching and learning from. But I had this one particularly for 4 years straight. The very first year we did it, him and his, I'm assuming, litter mate from the year prior, they consistently came in together. And the next year, he showed up. And the reason I can tell it's him is he had this prominent white marking on his chest. And he did some of the goofiest things. Then the next year he came, and he kept getting bigger and bigger. Last year I had a lot of technical difficulty on my trail cam, so I was unable to really get a good, accurate reading on everything that came in. And so I'm really looking forward to this year. I'm hoping he comes back. And although, yeah, it might be kind of hard to watch, to harvest him, it won't be, because it'll have such a respect for him. And to be able to take him and feed my family with him would be such an honor. And so something like that, though, that you don't necessarily get hunting in different ways. Other ways for us would be very difficult. We would almost have to just spot and stalk for bear, which obviously could be dangerous if we have grizzly in the area. So where this leads me is although people might look at this requirement from Idaho as something that's very frustrating or annoying, I have to say kudos to Idaho. I am so proud of our Fish and Game and for taking this action, because I want to maintain this opportunity for years to come. I want to maintain being one of 8 states, well, one of 9 states that allows for baiting, and to be able to allow my son to come out and help me set these bait sites and create these incredible memories we have together, and to teach him so much about bears and their way. And to do that, we have to do our part as hunters and ethically learn and ethically, adapt to requirements. Being that we are a state that does have grizzly and they are considered endangered in our area. Idaho is expected to have, or believed to have, 8 to 100 grizzly bear. In the lower 48 states, and being that there are the 4 states, Washington, Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming, there are 2,000 estimated grizzlies. Less than 2,000 estimated grizzlies in those states and in the lower 48. So we have to do our part to help maintain that population of grizzly, absolutely, but also do our part in the non-overpopulation of black bear and helping maintain healthy levels. And doing that ethically is so important. So I will say, Idaho's not making any money. This is a free test. It's not like they implemented this to get more money out of you. No, they do it because they care about the animals, and so should we. So I hope that this podcast maybe got you thinking. Maybe it helped encourage you to learn more about bear baiting, to learn more about bear hunting. And if that's the case and you don't even know where to start, I am going to share in my show notes a couple YouTube videos of how I created my bait sites and what I did, how to incorporate my son. And in a few more weeks, we'll have a couple reviews up on the YouTube channel on some products that we use, and I'm really getting eager to set up our bait. So with that being said, I hope that you guys learned something important from this video. And as always, if you have any questions or you want more information or anything like that, I am available always on social media. You can find me on Instagram at stickbow_mama, and again on YouTube, stickbow_mama. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Raised Traditional. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll continue exploring what it means to live a traditional lifestyle and connect with the outdoors. Until then, happy hunting.